Hi there folks, today I'll be talking a bit about medlars. This young medlar tree here behind me is already good for harvest, so I wanted to take you along for that and do a quick video about this not very well known fruit. So we had a rainstorm with high winds a couple of days ago, and when I came out to inspect the damage, I saw those fruit from the medlar on the ground, which usually means that it's time to harvest the tree. It has lots more on the branches, and I'm usually doing my shake test, to see if they readily fall, even though the medlars are usually clinging onto the branches very well, very tightly, and they can sit on the tree basically throughout the winter. But I prefer to gather them and store them in the cool basement so they can overwinter there without any damage, because when the temperatures drop really low they start to rot very quickly, and also they may get moldy with the rain and the increased humidity in winter. So I'll be doing a whole complete medlar video probably next year in spring when I start grafting, because there's so much to share about this fruit. It's one of the best fruit for cold temperate climates, one of the latest fruiting fruit trees. It's cold hardy. It's the latest fruit to be harvested here. So there's lots of good things to be said about it. But today, for a short video for my vlogmas attempt, I'll be just showing you how we harvest and when we harvest and how we eat the medlar fruit. So first of all, I wanted to talk about this tree here. It's not a specific variety, it's just a seedling medlar which I got from a nursery, and it gives this type of fruit. This is a medium-sized medlar fruit, and as all medlars seedlings, it has 5 large seeds inside of it. I have grafted on the same tree on 2 of the branches a bigger variety. You can see the difference in size, and this variety has much more pulp to eat, so I wanted to compare if that one will be as resilient as the original one. And after several years of harvest, I now know that they are. So slowly I'll be replacing the original rootstock with this one, and I'll be leaving one of the branches with the original fruit for just cross-pollination, which is always better with fruit trees. And then a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, I grafted another variety, which you can see is even smaller in size than the original one. But the interesting thing here is that this is a seedless variety. So even though it's much smaller than the large fruited one which I have, it has no seeds. So if you remove the seeds from this one and measure just the pulp, they are almost the same. This is just a little bit lighter and much easier to eat. As you probably know, medlars are not eaten ripe. This is a ripe medlar. The ones that have fallen on the ground, they're already ripe, but they're very stiff, and what you need is to occur is a process called bletting, which is like a low temperature rotting of the fruit, in which the starches are converted to sugars, so the fruit becomes soft and mushy inside, a bit like mushy persimmon fruit, and also it becomes sweet and not tart and astringent. The way you usually consume a well-blended medlar is you remove the top. This is where the fruit is attached to the branch, and then you just squeeze the soft insides and then just spit out the 5 large size seeds which it has. I usually just throw those around in hope of one day we'll be getting medlar seedlings which I can plant out in the wild, because this is amazing winter food for the wildlife. It has a very fruity taste, maybe with some nuttiness to it. It's very soft, it's like a cream inside. You can see the pulp, and at the end you're left with just the skin. Traditionally here, the medlars are left on the tree and harvested before Christmas time, and the way you eat them is just going out daily in the garden and inspecting which of the fruit are still hard to the touch and which are already properly blended. You can see how soft the skin and the flesh is here, and you just pick the well blended ones and eat them, and you left the other ones to blend. They need low temperatures for that process, so if you gather the ones like this one which fell from the wind because it's ripe but it's still hard, if you bring that inside it will just shrivel up and dry and you won't be able to eat it. So if you do gather the unblended medlars, you have to either keep them in a fridge or in a cold basement where they can gradually blend, so you can have those. I'll be shaking the tree now and gathering what falls off, but in the next few days I'll be probably picking the whole tree clean, because we have more rain coming, and next week we'll have low temperatures, and also many of the fruit are already properly blended, so we just have to eat those. They don't store well when they're blended, maybe for a couple of weeks in a cool location, but otherwise it's better to have them just ripe and store them like that. And I've had medlars store well way into February and even March if they're in proper conditions. So all those fell from a single shake of the tree. Even found a planted walnut here, and I still have a bit more left, maybe double that amount, and I'll be harvesting those now. But the most interesting thing for me is that the medlar grafts very well onto hawthorn rootstock. So this here beside me is our neighbor's medlar tree, and it was grafted on hawthorn maybe 10 or 12 years ago. You can see that it's loaded with fruit. They have started harvesting it last week, but they also leave a lot of the fruit to fall down as a food for the hens, because this here beside me is the animal yard and they have hens free roaming, free ranging. Let me turn the camera around and I'll show you the actual grafting. So you can see here this slanted piece of stem is the original hawthorn rootstock, and up here it was cleft grafted some years ago, and it grew several branches. So all this upwards is the medlar, and downwards is the hawthorn. And if you look closely, you can see those branches with thorns on them. This is the original rootstock sprouting new growth from below. And this should be, of course, trimmed at any time, but upwards, look at the amount of fruit on that little tree. It's maybe less than 3 meters tall and not much wider crown. And you can easily get tens of kilos of medlar from that one, and it has already been harvested here in the lowest parts. And there's lots of fruit which have fallen to the ground as well. I had to stop filming up there because the toddler came out and wanted to also eat some medlars. I'll try to include some footage of that. It is. Вкусно? Угу. И Марисенко. Плюм. So that was all for today. I'll be leaving you just with a tiny bit of warning, because if you eat too much medlar, it can constipate you. So my advice is not more than a handful a day. That was all for today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow.